What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe.
And Amy.
Review. And we're here for a little bit of a quicker one this week. The Eldritch Moon story is done, which means the Shadows over Innistrad block story is done. We mentioned that would seemingly is the case. It is, in fact, the case. We are now into Conspiracy 2, as we kind of guessed as in last week's video as well. Which again should be annotated up here. You guys can go take a look at that if you missed it, if you are new, as I said. But now we're into full swing into Conspiracy Take the Crown, which seemingly the crown is going to be taken by Marchesa, who we have known as the Black Rose. But in this story, we met Kaya. And this story, by the way, was the story of Kaya, and it was called Laid to Rest. So that was the story this week. Kaya was introduced to us. We don't have her card yet. We don't know what it looks like. The set will be coming out in just under a month, at least from the time of the filming of this video and the release of this story. It's about a month until the set releases. There's no pre-release or anything because it's a specialty set. But I do encourage you, I mean, obviously I know nothing about this particular set, but I do definitely encourage you, if you're a fan of Limited like myself, to go out and play. Because I've played original Conspiracy Limited, and it was a ton of fun. It's so interesting. It's so unique. I hope that they just continue to build on it and make it that much better in this one. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Kaya, Ghost Assassin, and her story, Laid to Rest, which I thought was pretty cool, right? It was... I was a little wary because the stories for Eldritch Moon or not for Eldritch Moon, excuse me, for Eternal Masters were kind of so-so. Like, they were cool stories, but their impact was non-existent. Right? It didn't matter. It was one-off stories that were cool to read, don't get me wrong, and we were happy to cover them for our series, but at the same time, at the end of the day, or 3 weeks later, they were completely inconsequential. Now, seemingly this story, or these stories, are not one-offs because they kind of gave you the hint in this one of, oh, I got a letter from the Black Rose, or signed the Black Rose, which means I guess my time has come to do that big job, even though this story is really just about her doing a little job. It did its job, I keep saying job, but it did its job of introducing us to Kaya, to her abilities, to the things that she can do, the way that she thinks, and a little bit of her magic. She can create kind of will-o'-the-wisps and go through walls and kind of power up her daggers that she keeps in her forearms, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, the story was cool, and the preview for next week's story is that it will be more about what we know is going to happen in the story, which is Kaya assassinating Brago and leaving the throne empty, which is the way that Conspiracy 2 was kind of shown to us, was with Brago, a picture of Brago, and it was like, oh, Conspiracy 2, it's back. And then, Reign of Brago, or whatever it was called. And then, like, a day later or 2 days later, there was just a picture of what we now know to be Kaya stabbing Brago in the throat or in the neck with her purple glowing dagger, which we now understand why it was glowing purple.
She has two of them, so...
Yes. And she dropped
could
one,
be, like,
but...
stabbing him in, like, the stomach with the other one at the same time.
It'd be pretty badass. The picture was badass enough, don't get me wrong. It looked really, really cool, and the detail was incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking of pictures, I don't know how you felt about this, but me personally, in this story, it was cool to have pictures, but they were, again, I'll use the phrase, completely inconsequential.
I mean...
Except for Kaya's picture,
yeah, I was
going
to say, like, I liked seeing Kaya, so, like, we knew who she was, and we knew that when we looked back to those other pictures that we had already seen, oh, okay, Kaya is this person. Right,
and no, I apologize, I misspoke. Not the Kaya pictures. I think just all the other ones that were just used because they kind of fit with what was going on in the story at the time. Like,
it was just like they were just like there for the sake of having pictures in it because other stories have pictures in them.
Yeah, which was unnecessary. I mean, like, you know,
just leave the pictures out then.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because I mean, the only picture that I think was new was the one of the nobleman.
Oh, okay.
Right, that in the beginning it didn't have a card name annotated underneath it that you could scan over, but all the other pictures were cards from Innistrad or Dual Decks or something like that, you know, and obviously there's no annotation under Kaya's picture yet because presumably that'll just be on her Planeswalker card, which will be in Conspiracy 2, or Conspiracy Take the Crown, whatever it's called, regardless. But that's presumably where that will be, and we'll just have to wait for that to be spoiled. Again, I always trust Wizards with this kind of stuff, but I'm surprised that they didn't just spoil it in this story. Why wouldn't you do that? This is clearly their way of springing into, hey, Conspiracy 2 is coming, don't forget, end of August, you know, and you talk about this Planeswalker and you talk about her as a person, and again, I mean, I've been on the Magic subreddit and I've seen that there's tons of people talking about her. There have been a bunch of different YouTube videos put out about her, speculations and things like that. So maybe that's what they want. They want speculation. They want people talking about it, but
maybe.
I'd rather just see the card personally. I mean, maybe you guys disagree, and as always, let us know in the comments down below if you disagree and you want to talk about it with your friends and speculate and things like that, or if you're like me and you're just like, okay, great, thanks, just show me the card, you know. And again, it just would kind of play up the story aspect and how important the story is to them. And who knows, because this story is continuing into next week, maybe they'll just do it next week. You know, maybe they'll do it the week after. Because looking at the calendar, there are 4 more Wednesdays, 4 Wednesdays total, counting this story and the other ones. There are 4 Wednesdays before Conspiracy releases. I don't know whether or not all 4 of them are going to be conspiracy stories. We know
if they are, that's a decent chunk of time for them to use to create whatever they want to create, as far as interest in the product.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, there should be enough interest in this fun, different multiplayer limited format, but at the same time, because story is important to them, they are adding this story, they are building up these characters, as opposed to Eternal Masters stories where it was about an Ancestral Mask card.
My point is
nothing.
I think they're going to try and use the stories as a way to create interest for this set, even though it's a specialty set. And there's not going to be pre-release. There's not, you know, it's not like one of the normal sets.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of deciding to use the story as a way to make it so that people want to go out and buy the set.
And like I said, it's seemingly working. I mean, you've got people talking about it. It's you know, a big discussion on the subreddit, very near to the top, and it's just something that is...
Which I find interesting, because I almost feel like all the other stories are sort of after the fact. Like, the interest in other sets is there, and they use the story as a way to, like, make it cooler.
Yeah.
After the interest already exists. And then this one, it's the opposite. Yeah,
and I mean, like, you know, in Shadows over Innistrad or Eldritch Moon, they would spoil a card or two here or there in the story, but I don't believe Jace was spoiled in the story. Because otherwise that would be a pretty big spoiler. But otherwise, you know, the spoilers that they gave us through the stories were relatively minor. You know, there was the rare in Eldritch Moon, but it was just a random rare. It doesn't really have a large impact of any kind. It was just cool that they gave us something, which I appreciated because I've been asking for that. So, overall, this week's story is good. As we kind of always say, we'll have to wait and see what the other stories give us, because I think that this story did a very good job from a storytelling perspective. I think this story did a good job of introducing us to Kaya, introducing us to her abilities, to her rationale, and even though we know she's killing Brago very soon, if not next week, very soon, it did a good job of endearing us to her, right? Because the nobleman was a bad guy, and he killed his own mother, and now he was trying to use Kaya to get her spirit out so that he could do whatever he wanted with her home. And Kaya was just like, yeah, no, that's not okay, and let the spirit of his mother kill him, which was cool. What a cool ending.
Which was hilarious.
Yeah, and well, especially because kind of throughout the story she was talking about how noblemen were annoying and she didn't like them, and she was from nobility herself, but she didn't flaunt it like that, and so, yeah.
Which, like, if you didn't actually read the story and you just heard us say that, you'd probably be like, oh, okay, so she let that happen because she is just a hater of, of you know, people who are noble or whatever. But the way they wrote the story makes you like her, not dislike her.
Which I'm saying I think is surprising, because she's going to kill Brago, and a lot of people like Brago, so we'll have to see how that goes. Because Marchesa's kind of evil, or kind of a villainess.
Well, again, that kind of creates a nice dynamic character.
True.
Where, okay, let's make them fall in love with her, meaning the audience, when I say them. Let's make them fall in love with her, and then in the next story, she's going to kill someone else that they love even more. So, you know, and then, you know, we'll see what happens after that. Maybe she'll, you know, I don't know, maybe she'll meet that other chick. What's her name?
Marchesa. Marchesa the Black Rose.
She'll meet that woman and, you know, do something that makes us love her and hate Marchesa, or the opposite. I don't know.
It's definitely a possibility. Anyway. It's definitely a possibility, because, I mean, you know, they could always go with the angle of, oh, it's just a paycheck, and I know that you're evil, Marchesa, but I wanted my money, and so now that I've killed Brago, now I'm going to come after you as well. Who knows? As we said, we shall see. Yeah, I mean, this was a pretty quick one, guys. Obviously, shorter stories, less consequential, but still kind of leading into other things. We'll talk more about this next week, so definitely subscribe down below. You will find out when that video comes out. You can let us know what you thought of this video in the comments down below. Check in with us on Facebook and Twitter. Those links are in the description. There have probably been videos annotated up at the top. Definitely check those out, of us opening Eldritch Moon product and things like that. Just all kinds of stuff of us showing off our hashtag Vorthos Pride, as always. And we did a Fiancé Fat Pack battle between the two of us, so you can go check that out. That was a lot of fun. A lot of you already have, and thank you for that if you already have, but if you have not, definitely check it out. I'll probably annotate that last up here, so you can feel free to click the I. But otherwise, guys, from the Geek for All YouTube channel, I've been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.